Alex Jamieson. I'm so happy to meet you, and thank you for allowing us to invade your park, Prospect Park in Brooklyn.
Isn't this fabulous?
And what a gorgeous day. Oh my goodness. To begin with, I know you did the Great American Detox Diet about 6 years ago now, I guess.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe, yes?
It is.
And you were featured in the movie Super Size Me, which is nominated by Academy Award.
That's right.
How thrilled were you with that?
It was amazing. The whole Supersize Me experience was incredible from beginning to end. It really gave me a chance to talk to the world about what I do and how I can help people with diet. So it's been one of the best things in my life for sure.
Yes, I'm sure it opened up a lot of doors.
It did.
And then right after that, you did another book, didn't you?
I did. My second book is Living Vegan for Dummies. And that was put out in the Dummies series and covers everything about the vegan lifestyle, the vegan diet, nutrition, fashion, all the consumer goods that people might not think about, the reasons why people go vegan, and about 40 great mainstay recipes to introduce people to the food.
You also have a counseling service, which I found very interesting. So you can be very personalized.
Yeah, I work with people all over the world, and I work with people one-on-one on the phone, or I work with groups of people using a teleconferencing system. Clients all over the world take part in my groups, and I also have one-on-one clients that I'll do Skype with or in-person consultations with here in New York City. And I meet people where they are. You know, I don't force people to do drastic steps from day one. I really look at where they are and what they want to achieve. And for the most part, it involves just really improving the overall quality of their diet, but taking it step by step and making sure that they're not going to have a rebound effect, that it's too harsh too quickly. But I've had some really fantastic results for people. I love it.
What do you find people tend to do wrong when they start? Do you advise going slowly into it or jumping right in, or what have you found?
Well, everyone's different. You can't make a blanket statement for people, and they are in different stages of life. They might be different ages. I have 20-year-old clients and I have 64-year-old clients, men and women, different kinds of jobs and lifestyles. So you can't make it a blanket recommendation for everyone. But I do find that most people need to greatly reduce or eliminate sugar and caffeine. Those are usually the first two things that they need to look at. And that can be tough.
And that they don't want to do that.
They don't usually want to do that, but they usually know that those are two of the reasons why they're not reaching their goals, whether it's weight loss or headaches or skin issues. So I try to take it slow with people. Some people want to do it right away, and then if they fail and cheat, then they make themselves feel really bad for not being good enough. And I try not to take that approach. You know, there are times when sugar can be your friend, and everybody needs some sugar in their diet. You know, you need carbohydrates, but you need it in the right proportions and from the right foods that are actually going to give you nutrition. So I try to help people feel really good about quality ingredients rather than making them feel bad for failing.
What is the first thing you might advise somebody?
Well, I usually have them really get honest about what their diet entails. So I love to look at what they've been eating for the last week, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and how their moods are affected by those foods. Really start to make parallels and see that patterns that are forming, like what results from what you eat for breakfast. Let's do some experimentation with that first meal and see how you feel later in the day. Maybe you need a lot of protein in the morning. You know, maybe you need a lot of nuts and seeds if you're into oatmeal. You know, maybe you need to make it half ground nuts and seeds or hemp seeds instead of just oats. Or maybe I love to have like a big slab of tofu that's sauteed on top of really good quality bread. And that is really rich in protein and filling. You know, good protein-heavy breakfast works well for people like me.
When you talk in relation to the tofu, how do you prepare it?
I like to do mine in a pan with olive oil, and just heat it up on both sides, not frying it, but just warming it up.
Yeah.
And I use a little bit of coconut aminos, which are like, the Bragg's liquid aminos, but these are made from coconut instead. And it's about half the sodium
Oh.
and a really nice mellow flavor. So I love that kind of savory flavor, but without so much sodium.
For those who don't know, would you express Bragg's aminos?
So Bragg's liquid aminos is something you'd find in the health food store near the soy sauce. And it is a soy sauce replacement, but it's made in a different way. And it does have all these amino acids in it, so people like to use that. They believe it's healthier than soy sauce, but still higher in sodium than we need to be taking in.
How much of sodium do you recommend a day? Which
Well,
people don't tend to add it up anyway.
people don't add it up, and I've been following Dr. Joel Furman for quite a while. I really like what he has to say, and I like his products. And he says 1,000 or less milligrams a day. And I think that that's a really good idea.
And about how, that's just added salt or salt that we get from our food as well, I wonder.
I think that's added salt.
That's always confusing
I mean,
to
it's
me because
total.
we do have a lot of salt in our food that we don't realize.
That would be total, I think.
Yeah.
So that would be included in the food and some salt that you add.
Yeah. With your little boy that I still think is a baby, I know that you said he's in kindergarten now. What do you do in relation to fulfilling a child's needs in relation to plant-based? I'm sure you get this question a lot.
I do. Well, my son is almost 5. He just started public school kindergarten a few weeks ago. And, I make his lunch every day. And he's a pretty simple kid in terms of his tastes. So most of the time it's leftovers from dinner the night before. I'll do a little container of unsweetened soy yogurt with some raisins in it. And I put some extra things. I hide it in the yogurt. Like I'll add a liquid DHA supplement and stir it in there. He doesn't know it's in there, stuff like that. I also make him, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but they can't do peanuts in his school. So I use either almond butter, sunflower seed butter. I use the Food for Life sprouted bread, which is really high quality bread. And I also sprinkle in between the layers. I'll sprinkle on shredded sea vegetables.
Oh,
so he
my.
can't taste it, he doesn't know it's there, but he's getting added iron and minerals and iodine in his sandwich that way. And actually just today we had a cupcake crisis. The other parents aren't as familiar with how we eat, so one of the parents brought in a bunch of cupcakes to share for a birthday. The teacher didn't know about it in advance, but she called me a couple hours before snack time and said, look, we're going to have cupcakes. Is there any way you can get a cupcake here for Lakin? And I have frozen cupcakes ready to go in the freezer that I made. So I made a little frosting out of almond butter and chocolate and just whipped it up, spread it on there, ran it over to the school, and he's none the wiser.
Oh, that's fabulous.
So that worked out well.
So it's one thing to do it for yourself, but there's a lot of extra thinking that goes in for children. Yes.
There is. Yeah, you have to make sure that over the course of a week, you can't stress out about what they're eating in a day. Because some days they eat like nothing. They'll eat like 2 tablespoons of food over the course of a day. And you think, oh my gosh, how can they be so energetic on so little food? But if you look at what they're eating over the course of a week, they might be taking in over a dozen different kinds of vegetables, different fruits, different whole grains. I try to have a bean a day. Either chickpeas, lentils, white beans, something once every day. So he's getting a mixture of all different kinds of nutrition through the week, as well as lots of different nut butters and seed butters, things like that.
And it takes a lot of monitoring, though. Like you said, the teacher is very much aware.
Yes.
Are there other situations you can think of where...
Well, we've had other birthday parties that we've been invited to, and anytime we're invited to a party, I ask, as soon as I get the invitation, yes, we'd love to come. I see that you're going to be having a pizza party. You know, I'd love to bring a vegan cheese pizza to share with everybody. And I can actually order a pizza here to be delivered in my neighborhood. So I
Wow.
can never move out of Park Slope, Brooklyn.
Yay, Park Slope.
Because I can have vegan pizza delivered to my house. But you can also get those tofurkey, Daiya cheese, frozen pizzas from the freezer section of the health food store and take those to any party. And if they're having cake or cupcakes, I always ask in advance, what's the treat, what are you serving, so that I can bring something that looks just like what you're serving to share. You know, I don't want it to be a burden for them, but I want to also make it fun so that other people might try it and say, oh, that was really good. You know, how does that work?
Yes.
So it's a nice way to get in there. Dessert is an easy way to introduce people to this style of eating for sure, but you know, people love good fresh food. So if you just bring something that's nice, you know, like make a beautiful nut cheese and bring crackers, people love that. I had a garden party last summer and there were only 2 vegans there. There were a dozen other people, and by the end of the party, the crackers ran out. People were eating the nut cheese with a spoon. Like, they were just loving it. They didn't even think about it being a non-dairy cheese.
And what is it made from?
That one's really simple. It's soaked almonds, lemon, garlic, olive oil, salt. You know, you soak the almonds. The next day you puree it in a Cuisinart, and then you let it sit overnight in the fridge in a ball and cheesecloth and let it form. And you've got this big, huge, beautiful round loaf.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Is that a recipe in one of your books?
I think it is. I think that's in Vegan Cooking for Dummies, my
Okay.
most recent.
What is your hope for the future, Alex?
My hope for the future. I want people to eat and learn to enjoy real food. That's my real first step with most people, is to get them excited about cooking real food, about buying real food from farmers markets, about increasing access to real food, fresh local foods as well, you know, in terms of growing CSAs and farmers markets and getting people excited and think that they can cook, you know, empower people to learn how to cook more for themselves. So that's my first big step, because once you start doing that, they will get excited about using real food, plant-based food to get their nutrition from. And if you can break those habits and the addictions that people have with sugar and salt and dairy and those refined foods, if we can break those addictions and get them really interested in loving the taste of real food, then we can really start to make some progress.
Oh, absolutely. Have you counseled anyone that had such a dramatic difference in their being that you will never forget it as long as you live?
Absolutely. I've been so honored to work with these people. One that comes to mind is a woman who lived in Florida who I've never met in person. We worked together on the phone for several months, and she sent me an email earlier this year and said, hey, do you remember me? I haven't, spoken to you in about 4 years. I said, yeah, how are you? How are things? She said, good. I took your recommendations, and over the last few years, I've lost 100 pounds. I'm off of all my medications. She was on cholesterol and blood pressure medications. It's totally changed her life. And she was in her early 50s at the time. She said, I'd been living a certain way for 50 years, so to reverse that in 4 years, I think is a pretty good change. I think that's amazing, really amazing.
It is. It's the sort of thing you can get moist eyes
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
You really can.
I get re-inspired by my clients.
Yes.
I really love working with them.
Yes. How do you handle the protein question?
Oh, picture the biggest land animal you can in your head. People always say a giraffe or an elephant. How do you think they got that big? They eat leaves and grass. And it's definitely possible for human beings to get big and be healthy with all the protein they need coming from plant foods.
And
It's
then
as
there's
simple
the
as
calcium question.
Which is basically the same thing. I can always refer to that as an easy visual for people to think about the large land animals on this planet, how they grow so big and strong, but also referring back to cultures that have traditionally had no dairy in their diet, or very, very little in their diet, like the Philippines, like China. these were cultures that didn't have dairy as part of their traditional food system. And these cultures have been growing and thriving for many, many thousands of years with very little osteoporosis to show for it. It was only when the Western diet, the highly refined diet, was introduced did they start having all the health problems that we now have.
Alex, thank you so much. This was just wonderful.
Thank you.
And I'm already looking forward to the cheese. I'm going home to make it. I know I have that book there.
Great.
So I'm going to do that. And good luck with all of your career avenues, my goodness, between books and counseling and being in Oscar-nominated film. You have a busy life. I just really thank you a lot. And I hope people will look upon your website, which is?
Yeah, my website is deliciousvitality.com, and I also have another website, weekinaweekend.com, which is a whole meal planning program which shows you a week's worth of plant-based menus, the recipes, a shopping list for a family of 2 or 4, and a video on how to make everything over the weekend.
Oh my goodness.
So that you can save time and actually eat fresh during the week.
Thank you again very, very much.